and then they...
Good evening. Oh,
Hello.
Kathleen smelled like pepper up in here.
What kind of pepper? I got the boogies.
You ain't got to worry. Pepper ain't ever hurt nobody. All right. Get the microphone where I need it to be. Good evening, Undergrounders. Oh, look, Kathleen, how to lose weight in 4 easy steps.
1, put the cookie down.
Number 1, no beer.
Boo.
Number 2, portion control.
Boo again.
Number 3, have your heart broken. And not just broken, shattered into itsy-bitsy tiny little pieces by a girl who never loved you and never will. Join the gym at your work. Start going to the gym regularly. You know that you don't know much about exercise and you're way too weak to do pretty much anything but lift 5 pounds weights and use the elliptical machines with the old people. Do it until your sweat makes a puddle on the floor. Then go home and go to bed early and the next day and do it again and again and again. Number 4, no fruit juice.
No fruit juice? That'll get you.
Number
Man.
3 is actually this really long.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Ooh, ooh. Yeah, sure. Oh,
Did you have the key?
I think there's a switch. I don't know. Everybody's watching you eat.
It's pre-snack time.
It is. It's snack time. I'm having coffee.
I feel good about my life.
Look at your life. Look at your choices. Hi. Yeah. Well, we'll see about that. Ooh, ooh.
Oh, look, it's me.
You're watching yourself on the tape delay there, huh?
I am. Every once in a while, you just gotta watch yourself. I don't ever. Well, I have a hard time watching myself because I'm always like, oh.
Is that my voice?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I'm far too vain. I've never had a problem watching myself on TV, but I do critique myself. Going, really? Are you really slouching like that, Decker?
Yeah, you Ron Raspberry, you.
Actually, I call myself Christopher.
Oh.
Like God does. and my parents. My parents
Yes.
and Father Ryan.
Huh?
Father Ryan calls me Christopher.
Christopher?
Yeah,
You
but he
leave
counts
trouble.
as kind of a brotherly thing.
Sure. That's good.
See, I don't have a name that you can. I mean, people call me my full name.
I call it Kathleen.
Yeah, Kathleen. But I mean, like, I don't have an in trouble name. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I did.
Yeah. Kathleen Percival Lee.
Yeah.
I get the full Paul Jeffrey.
Uh-huh.
Because everybody called me Jeff coming up as a kid.
Yeah.
So I got that Paul Jeffrey thing. I knew it was serious.
My mom calls me Kathleen Marie, but not when I'm in trouble. Just calls me that.
Right.
Oh.
It's almost like a term of endearment.
Yeah.
Like my mom will call me Christopher or Topher sometimes.
Oh, isn't that precious?
I'm happy that my stage name is not Topher, though, because I would probably go. It sounds something like a hard candy you eat.
Yeah, I'll take one of them Tophers.
Yeah, I'll have a Topher, please.
Pass it over here.
Oh, who's going to eat the last Topher?
Oh, not me.
I've had 4 already. Happy Valentine's, everyone. Happy Valentine's.
I like it. Let's see. You don't have your little sound effects box.
I don't. Are you good to do that, or do I need to go in? Okay, yeah.
I certainly can. I just need to figure out.
Oh, you got to call those things up.
Yeah, but that's okay. It's just locate them, load them up, and we'll be good to go.
Sitting in butter.
Slathering, as it were.
I don't ever think I've watched this as we go.
Oh yeah,
It's funny.
That's what the kids say. They apparently do like this pre-show.
Kid, okay, where are we? See you.
In fact, I always feel kind of weird because we've had several people say, "Oh, well, why don't you include that in the podcast anymore?" I'm thinking, you don't want all this nonsense in the podcast. Who wants that?
Apparently the people do.
Yeah, but I guess you could give them what they want, but I don't know. I think the professional inside of me wants to make sure that we give them exactly what we want them to have.
It does help me check my hair.
Yeah.
My mom made a comment about how rough I look sometimes on the show.
Kathleen Marie, I love you, bud.
She was like, I forgot what I was saying. I was like, yeah, I gotta. Now that we're on TV, I gotta spruce myself up. And she was like, you don't do that now. Like, you don't do that on a normal basis. And I was like, what?
HD
you might wanna work on
makeup. Yeah. So we got this one here. Excuse me. A wee bit loud there. I don't know. You kind of.
That's yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the only other one that I have is the pick of
the CU pick of the week.
Yep. No, that's good.
Swing. Okay. There we are.
Yeah. Because I don't think. Let me just take a look here. I've got 1 interstitial, and then 2 interstitial, and then pick of the week. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the only problem I have is I don't have another monitor. So I have to switch back and forth with
Oh, yeah.
But that's not a biggie. I just don't want to miss it.
Is it on the production computer? No, it's on the semi computer.
It's the production computer.
Oh, well, the production computer isn't actually doing anything today.
Well, that's the one that
Get it to work.
I have my show notes on. I guess I could print them out.
Yeah. I mean, oh, yeah, you could.
I could.
Or we could use that monitor there. The one that's sitting in front of you to your left.
Oh, man. Well, I mean, it's they're both on the same, so I have to just minimize one. So
but I mean, we could hook up one of these little
yeah, we could
computers and have it do Google Docs, and that's it.
That would be cool. We really need about 2 more of these monitors.
Well, I mean, in the future, in the year 2000, you will actually have.
I was thinking in the year 2525.
In the year 2525, monitors were no longer needed because we had them on our mind core.
True. Google Glass had taken over, right?
Yeah, actually, I was reading Google Glass has basically been a big flop.
Oh yeah, I think it's going away.
Also, it was $1,500. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
If I have a choice between $1,500 for Google Glass or $1,500 for, I don't know, a new laptop, I will take the new laptop.
The new laptop is good. Yeah.
Speaking of new laptops, I think I'm gonna get an Apple Mac.
Oh.
Is that the proper word for it? A Mackage.
A Mackletop.
That reminds me.
Mackletop.
I'm gonna get the little one, the little Air one.
MacBook Air.
Yeah.
I actually have been thinking about switching to a MacBook Air if I save my pennies, because as much as I like the MacBook Pro, I realize that I don't do any high-level computing on it anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I don't do video editing on my Mac anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I just do graphic stuff, and the MacBook Air can pretty much do that. Beware, there is no CD-ROM drive or DVD-ROM drive. There's no super drive on there.
I don't really use it.
Okay.
However,
Sound like you're a good candidate then.
Yeah.
could you do like some simple video editing?
Oh, yeah. I
Like
mean,
with my
it comes
GoPro?
with iMovie. Sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it comes with iMovie.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like I got a GoPro for the school.
Right. You can do simple stuff on it without a doubt. The only problem with movie editing of any kind is file sizes and processor power.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or lack of.
Or lack thereof.
Yes.
Now, the processor will be fine for simple movie editing, but it may not render as fast. Love it.
Actually, those when I was back in my days of cranking out, at one point I was doing 70 car commercials a month. Can you imagine that?
Ooh.
Yeah, just screaming my lungs out. So we did a spot.
225. No money down. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Right. Plus tax, title, license with approved credit.
That's right. Mormons need not apply.
So, you said Mormons? I just caught that.
Zing!
There we go.
I don't know why they wouldn't need to apply. It's just it was the first world religion that came to my mind.
Okay. But anyway, I had we were doing like a takeoff of Wheel of Fortune, but of course we couldn't say Wheel of Fortune. So I got the secretaries and a couple of guys in the room and said, "Come on, we need to do the oohs and ahs and some applause." And in fact, we even did somebody who had missed an answer. Did one of those. So but those things are 20 years old. And I kept them in digital format all these years.
All these years.
Yes. Yeah. And that's my story for the evening.
This has been Jeff Remembers the Old Times.
And I mean, even in those days, I still was using grease pencils and razor blades and splicing tape. Yeah.
Those were the good old days.
They were.
How do I tell which gigabytes I need? I don't know these things.
You mean for the processor?
Processor? Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Or do you mean storage?
I don't know. It says 11-inch, 128 gigabytes, or
Oh,
256
that's RAM.
gigabytes.
Oh no. Oh, that's the size of the hard drive.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna want
Storage, yeah.
You're gonna want storage if you're going to be storing pictures that aren't in the cloud.
Okay.
If you're going to be editing movies that you're not going to take off the computer. See, whenever you have a solid state drive like on the Mac Mini or MacBook Air, you have to be very aware of what you want to do.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you'll run out of space pretty quick.
Quickly.
Especially if you're talking about like video files and film or rather photographs and things like that.
Yeah. Well.
It says, here we go. It says 4 gigabytes memory, 256 gigabytes PCIe based flash storage.
Yeah.
Okay. Now to find the monies.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. If you save your pennies, piece by piece, little by little, odd jobs here and there, helping the goats cross the bridge, you will have the money you need eventually. Yep.
Because I have a work computer.
Does it have USB ports on it?
It does.
USB
it does.
3
it has
maybe?
USB.
Does it have USB 3?
I don't remember how Apple feels about that. Yeah, Taylor in the chat room is saying, are y'all talking about MacBooks? I need advice on choosing one for college. Well, you've come to the right place, my dear. Kathleen's basically doing the same thing.
And should I?
Yeah, but I'm a 28-year-old. How many years? Old.
Yeah, but you haven't needed one until now. You haven't even had to think about this until now.
Yeah, the last one I got was when I went to, the last personal computer I got was when I went to college. I got a Dell, and it was great. But then
The Dell's a little workhorse. I mean, yeah.
then when I started working, I worked at laptop-based schools where I've just had
One provided.
Yeah.
Which
are great. They're great computers and
I think honestly, Kathleen, if you kind of thought out, if you use Google Drive for your word processing, or even Apple Pages, but using iCloud, and you use the cloud pretty well, you could probably get by with getting the 256 gigabyte option.
That's the high option though. The 128 gigabytes is the
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, you could 128 gigabytes
is nothing.
Well, I mean, if you're going to put music on your computer,
Yeah. Tell me this too.
If you're going to record like GarageBand sessions and stuff,
that'd be cool.
You're probably going to, I mean, and you can do all that with a MacBook Air, but you're going to want the storage space. Unless, of course, you just get a USB hard drive.
Like an external solid state drive.
An external drive.
Well, I did that with James Rosenblum's album when we did the capture session.
The only problem is you got to carry that around with you.
Yeah, but what was so cool is a little. It was like $80. I think it was 128 gigs solid state drive.
Yep.
Plugged it in, went directly to the solid state drive. Of course, made a backup copy. Gave him the drive, and he took it to the studio in Nashville.
Yeah.
So, but it's so cool because it's right there with you, and solid state it transfers.
And solid state is not going to degrade.
Yes.
It's got a pretty good half-life on it, we'll just say.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about the hard drive failing like an old hard drive with moving parts would have.
True.
Basically like carrying around a USB flash drive. Well, it is flash memory. It's like a USB stick, but a really big one.
It is.
In fact, the same thing that we use to record a podcast is a solid-state hard drive. So I just tossed that in my bag. And
And those they're making those pretty big now. I mean the sticks.
Well, this one I think is a 256.
Yeah, maybe that's big. That's And,
so you may just need to think out your strategy a little bit.
What I need it for. Because in all honesty, and this is what really gets me, is I could get away with this. Because I don't, the one that I have now. But I want something that I can put all my work stuff on, leave it, and then have one that's totally just, I could do what I want with.
Yeah.
And not have to worry about, losing it losing it to the normal network crashes.
Yep. So,
good to know.
I think you should get 2 of them then. MacBook Airs.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just put it on the card.
That's right.
Swipe.
I didn't get a credit card until this year.
Oh yeah. Good for you.
I mean this school year.
Oh.
Like one that you can use for the school or your own personal?
No, like my own personal.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Well,
I found that like growing up, my parents were always like, don't get involved in credit,
Yeah.
and don't get in debt. And I've been really fortunate not to have any debt. And then I realized when I went to go buy a car a couple years ago,
you have to have credit.
They were like, you don't have bad credit, and I was like, woohoo! And they're like, you have no credit.
That's right.
And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And so I opened a couple credit cards, and now I have to close them quickly.
Well, but if you close the credit card, that will also give you bad credit.
What?
So
you're crazy.
Yeah, I know. So you're better off not using the credit card. If you want to go back to the spending habits that you had before with no credit card, just use it once or twice a year to buy a tank of gas or something, so that you keep your credit history rolling. Yeah. The only reason I use the credit card is for the points. I pay it off every month.
Yeah.
There you go. And that's what I did. I had I had like a MasterCard and stuff like that, and just ran it up to an enormous amount of money.
Yeah, it's so tempting. It's so easy to do.
And I did that when I first started my business, and it took me about 5 years to pay it off, but I did.
Yeah.
And I just went to an American Express cards because you get the bill at the end of it. You can go charge and get a new car if you want to, but in 30 days you're going to get the bill for it.
Yeah.
That's right.
And you have to pay it off.
That's right.
But
because it is a charge card. Like you remember from the days of yore.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's very true. Was it? They had revolving credit. Is that what they call those?
I think that's what it was.
Revolving,
Yeah.
so.
Remember, like the Sears
Yes,
Roebuck card, those
yes.
really wide cards.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Yeah, I remember my folks had that. But, yeah, I kind of did that, Kathleen. It's not
Don't try this at home.
it's not smart for sure. Get yourself too far in debt. I've got one credit card and live off my debit card most of the time.
Yeah, I have a debit card that I use that more than I use anything else. And like I think it was last month, I paid off. I had zero balances on everything, and I was like, "Woohoo,
Man,
this is awesome!"
you go, sister.
I
Yeah.
know. I'm probably like a 15-year-old in an adult woman's body.
Not if you
because
have,
I'm like,
not if you're not in debt.
no, but
Right,
I'm like,
that's what I was about to
I
say.
don't have any like, I don't know things.
There's nothing wrong with not being acquainted in the ways of the world in some things.
Sure.
You know?
And I know my 18-year-old granddaughter's parents, my daughter and her husband, whenever those applications show up, they,
Yeah.
Oh
She don't
I was
even know
in
they arrived,
college and my parents had a fit. Because right before I went off to college, I applied for a credit card. So like I was a senior in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And they just went nuts. And I was like, whoa, no, I'm not in, I know what they are.
Yeah.
I figured I would need one for emergencies, but this is not something that I'm going to,
Yeah.
unless, and they went, oh, well, that's a responsible choice.
You're a smart little whippersnapper, aren't you? Well, that's good. I mean, and it is.
And actually, that
necessary.
credit card now, I have a $10,500 limit on, and I never use the thing
Wow.
because of that.
Yeah.
There you go.
But getting that card early on in life is what has helped my credit history. Because I've got a longer, oh, well, he's been a borrower for this long.
Yeah.
That whole credit card thing, I would suggest maybe signing up for Credit Karma. Mm-hmm. It's a free service, and it will give you free credit history reports. And you can also put in all of your financial information for your bank and stuff. Mm-hmm. And there are some budgeting things in there, too.
Oh, neat.
Mm-hmm. Or Mint.com does that, too. Yeah, but Credit Karma actually gives you the credit reports and stuff with a K.
So hurry, call now.
Operators are standing by, except in Utah, where there are no operators.
And Kevin.
Kevin!
Gotta always get Kevin in there. So, I'm going to go get me a spot of water. You'll need anything while I'm up?
I got some.
Oh, I think I would like a bottle of water myself.
All right, and I'll run to the bathroom for you while I'm up there.
Thank you, please do. Vicarious urination.
Y'all are weird.
Can I say that on YouTube?
You can say pretty much anything on YouTube.
That's true enough.
Are we done yet?
Phew. We ain't even started. I hope we have this energy for the show. Father Mark, are you good on the cams?
Yes.
Let me tell you, Jeff, if you want to see Father Mark at his best,
Yes.
or if you want to hear him at his best, episode 30.
Oh, okay.
You'd love it. Because Father Mark and you share some history with sound. And rocking out, indeed, for important people.
Oh, cool.
Hey, Tim. The seminarian intern, in the chat with a 50s avatar. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, this is made in Texas. The bottle or the water?
Oh, shit.
For generations, we're proud to bring you some of the finest 100% spring water only nature can provide. Ozarka, born better. This is
And you would
not
think Ozarka would be Arkansas.
yeah,
but,
yeah, in the holler, as it were.
That's right.
Only hollering is whenever you pay higher prices for water that's worse made.
That's right. Worse made.
It's a brand. Worse made.
Worse made water.
It's German.
Try something.
Worse made. It's water as well.
Hi.
It's spring fresh. Drink it now. Sorry.
Oh, by the way,
Yeah?
you referenced the shark
Yeah, well, I haven't referenced it yet.
Well, should I even bring it up then? Pre-show?
Save it.
I'll save it.
You know, we got some people. We got some people here.
But I just saw some video and I didn't know.
Oh, should I have not brought this up?
No, that's fine. I didn't see. I don't know. Maybe I just missed it. So we'll talk about that within the confines.
Well, I know that whenever I did see this, I was in a bit of a state.
Yeah.
A semi-lucid state. I was eating a burger at Red Robin Sunday evening going,
oh.
TV, Super Bowl, halftime.
Yeah. I didn't even have the volume up. I was just looking at the
I didn't either. I didn't
from the
have volume
production
up either.
standpoint. I thought it was phenomenal halftime show.
Yes, I think so too.
From a production standpoint.
Yeah,
Production only.
Oh, okay, yeah, production.
Yeah. I don't know. How do they get those balls to change colors like that? And everybody was in sync. And how many?
LED.
Hundreds of. Oh man.
They did it in China.
Wireless,
for the
huh?
Olympics. Yeah.
Had to be wireless. Mm-hmm. Oh, did they do that?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Somebody told me.
And Greece as well in Athens. Yes. Yeah, but I would agree with you from the standpoint of production. Imagine that production that's simple is better.
It wasn't simple though.
It was from a production standpoint. There was a lot happening.
Yeah,
but it wasn't as just blown out as previous halftime shows have been. There wasn't as much. There weren't as many moving pieces that didn't work.
Well, okay. Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
there were a few technical things that were awesome, but they actually relied upon they didn't rely upon the tchotchkes to do the work. They relied upon the talent of the singers to do the work of the halftime show, which is not something that we've seen in the Super Bowls past.
I just realized we're getting close.
We sure are.
We
Let's
need to pray. Yes.
Let's just Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Almighty God, we give you thanks for the gift of this podcast, of this radio show, of this television apostolate. We thank you for all that you have done for us, and we ask, O Lord, that you would help us to participate in the spreading of your gospel, your good news. Help us to say things that will help those on the way to salvation, and help us to not say those things that will not help. We ask, Lord, that you bless our equipment, bless all of those who listen to us live, hear their prayers. We make this prayer in the name of Jesus the Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. We'll see you, in just a few minutes.
My very good friend Kevin O'Brien from St. Louis has agreed to come. Did you also know that these lovely people in Ponchatoula have a statue of me erected in Chesterton Square in front of Chesterton Hall, right across from the train station? Ponchatoula is only minutes from places like New Orleans and Baton Rouge and Covington. I sure hope that you and your family and friends from far and wide will come and see me on March 7th. Well, go to ChestertonBR.com. Again, it's ChestertonBR.com. But until then, this is G.K. Chesterton signing off.
Doctors James Hebert and Jacob Henderson of Central Dental Care would like to thank Catholic Community Radio for fighting truth decay throughout Southeast Louisiana. Central Dental Care, 225-261-6645 or centraldentalcare.com.
Lisa Flood and Susie McKenzie bring you stories of conversion and reversion to the Catholic faith on the next Kingdom Road.
Each week, you're invited to grow deeper in your relationship with Jesus as we live and learn the Catholic faith together.
So come with us, meeting divine inspiration from fellow travelers as we journey to heaven together on the Kingdom Road.
Don't miss Kingdom Road on Monday at 3:30 here on Catholic Community Radio.
Catholic Community Radio can't happen without your spiritual support, but we're also praying for you. Call our prayer force today, and we'll add your prayers to our growing teams of rosary groups, Eucharistic adorers, and small faith communities. 225-341-2720.
Request prayer. Find out what's going on. Donate securely.
CatholicCommunityRadio.org.
CatholicCommunityRadio.org. WPYR.
Baton Rouge.
Catholic Radio.
For your community.
From the Catholic Underground.
Today on the show, remembering one of our biggest fans, drinking coffee and preparing for Lent, our picks of the week, and so much more. The Catholic Underground starts right now. Okay, put down your autographed photo of Left Shark. It's time for the Catholic Underground, your weekly Catholic guide to the digital continent. It's episode number 285. Wow. I am Father Chris Decker. Yeah. Woo. If you're listening live, you can join us in the chat room at catholicunderground.tv and get your chat on. There are a handful of people already doing that. They're always there. And you know what? Chatters, undergrounders there in the chat room, thank you, because you actually make this show part of what it is. Joining me this week, we've got Kathleen Lee. She's the campus minister at St. Michael the Archangel High School in Baton Rouge. She is our fully licensed faith ninja. Mm-hmm. Hey, Kathleen.
Hi.
And, of course, we got Jeff Blackwell. He is the technical director of the CU. He's commandant of the Jeff Star 1 near-Earth orbit satellite. Hello, Jeff.
Howdy, Father.
And we've also got, you can't see him, Father Mark Spruill. He is the official roadie and the chaplain to the Catholic Underground. He is taking the place of Ed and also Katie, because I forgot to call him. But Father Mark is very much qualified, and it's good to have him. He's a priest of the Diocese of Birmingham, and he is a close friend of the Catholic Underground. He's been with us since well before it actually existed, I think.
Yeah, and I think we'll take up a special offering for him later tonight.
He will. It's probably going to be like fish and chips, knowing Father Mark, but I think he's probably okay with that. Yeah. Father Ryan Humphries is on assignment. Okay, so yeah, remember I said at the top of the show we wanted to remember one of our biggest fans. Well, one of the biggest fans of our show is actually my dad. My dad died a week ago today, as a matter of fact, at just a few hours ago, a week ago, and he really was one of those guys that always was in my corner, and he, I think I probably got my radio voice from him too, because he worked for Delta Airlines for 33 years, and I remember as a kid, I grew up in the airport in Baton Rouge, back when you could, and he was the guy making all the pre-flight announcements, and I remember always listening to that, and he was always very distinct. So I think part of my love of broadcasting actually came from my dad using the PA system at the airport. Very strange, right? Yeah. But he was always such a great supporter of the ideas that I had, of the way in which I started to broadcast the gospel. And so Dad was always. It was almost as if he understood that there was sacrosanct time whenever the podcast was happening. Mm-hmm. So whether it was when we were on the radio, he goes, "Oh, that's right, you have your podcast. You can't do such and such." Or whenever we were at this seminary, I was at the seminary, and we were pre-recording it. He was like, "Oh, well, I guess we can't come to dinner because I know you've got the podcast that night." Huh. So Dad was always a great fan of the show, and he would watch from time to time. He would never go into the chat room, but he was definitely one of the biggest fans of the show. So I want to thank you, our listeners, who have prayed. We had to cancel the show really quick because of everything that was happening last week, mm-hmm. and you all have hung around, and you're still here. And so thank you very much for your prayers. It means a lot to me and to Mom. I'm an only child, so that in and of itself, I didn't realize what a big deal that was until it's just Mom and me trying to plan all this. And one of the greatest gifts, I think, is the fact that we have, because I'm an only child, because Mom, it's just me and Mom, through the priesthood, I have so many extended family members. Mm-hmm. And I think both Mom and I were overwhelmed by that this past week in planning the funeral and the vigil for the deceased and the funeral mass and everything. And so I just thank you from the bottom of my heart. And to all of you watching us on Catholic Life Television, I know so many of you who watch Catholic Life TV who are former parishioners of mine, who grew up, who saw me growing up. Thank you, especially to you, who were present for so much of this week. It means a lot. And since I have a radio show and a television show that I can tell you thank you. So I thought we'd just spend a few minutes talking about death.
Oh, not the D word.
Yeah, I know. Well, Saint Benedict, one of the big guys, Saint Benedict, the father of Western monasticism, in his rule, reminds us to keep death always before you. And that's one of those things that's kind of morbid, because in our world, Kathleen, we don't like to talk about it because we think that we're always supposed to be 10 feet tall, bulletproof, and jumping off of mountains.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But as it turns out, death will come for each of us. And so what St. Benedict suggests is that we ought to keep it there, always kind of like a little icon ready. Yeah. And so I kind of came up with 3 ways that we can keep death before us, so that it is not a stranger whenever God calls, but so that death is kind of like an old friend.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
And so number one is we keep death always before us by not shying away from it, but looking at death from the Christian perspective of hope. And this was a really big deal for Mom and for me, because Dad had been sick for a while, and September, October of last year, he had a heart event and then a kidney event, and he was hospitalized for quite a while. And over that time, very rarely does a dad listen to his son. You know, it's what I call the Nazareth syndrome, right? No prophet is ever accepted, especially in his own hometown.
Yeah.
But I said, Dad, you know, we don't know what the outcome of this is. Have you thought about spiritually if you're prepared? And he said, would you mind calling Father so-and-so? And I knew at that point, whenever he said, yeah, call the priest, bring the priest in, that he probably wanted to go to confession, that he wanted to talk things out with somebody who wasn't on the inner circle, but somebody that he could be completely honest and open with.
Right.
And that was a way that I saw my father looking death in the face and saying, well, I don't know when it's coming, but I want to make sure that I'm not caught off guard. And then from there, Mom and I had a really good 3 months with Dad from the end of last year, the beginning of this year. And so he was able to get his spiritual stuff in order. He was able to get his life in order, you know, with Mom and myself, you know, and to get all those loose ends tied up. And so when we look at death from the Christian perspective, we look at it from the perspective of hope. And it comes to us from Paul's letter to the Thessalonians. He says, we don't want you to be unaware, brothers and sisters, about those who have fallen asleep, so that you may not grieve like the rest who have no hope. For if we believe that Jesus died and rose, so too will God, through Jesus, bring with him those who have fallen asleep. That's what we believe.
Yes.
And I wonder, Jeff, sometimes if we don't perhaps read this enough, because it's so easy for us, even as Christians, to look at how the world views death, which is something that you just put in the bottom drawer.
Right, right. And this scripture reinforces that hope. And that, I mean, I've referred to this before, the never-ending story where that the Nothing uses that line, you know, I'm here to steal hope, because people who have no hope, they're easy to control. But people who have no hope, I mean, what's left?
Right.
So that reinforces that hope, and it's such a comfort to me. And even in that, you know, in the Hail Mary, you know,
yes,
pray for us now and at the hour of our death. I used to think, oh, man, that just sounds...
It's very morbid.
But there's great hope in that.
Yeah.
So, we have something to look forward to.
That's right. And one of the things that I was really kind of amazed at was at the vigil, at the wake, at the funeral home the night before the funeral, is all of the friends and family that we had that came by, and they brought their young children. I remember going to my grandmother's wake and kind of going up to the casket and crying, but not knowing why. You know, I knew that this was a sad moment, an emotional moment, and I was very, very young. And I remember my parents taking me out. I think it was my dad, and he took me out, and this was his mom who had died, and he kind of explained to me, well, your grandma, this is her body, and her soul has gone to be with Jesus, and she was hurting a lot, but now she's happy with God. And so I was just wondering, because I didn't get a chance to ask, obviously, because I was busy visiting, how do we deal with this with children? What's that like? I mean, with young children, I don't know that's just kind of an open question. And I think that the way my parents handled it for me as a young child was good. Is to kind of introduce that.
That sounds very, very similar to an experience I had with my grandson, who's 9, when my father passed away a couple of years ago. And, you know, we're going to the casket, and he was, you know, looking at my dad, and then he would touch him. I don't know why he wanted to touch him. It was just one of those things. But that gave us that opportunity to open that door to talk about what had transpired, how, you know, his grandpa had, his great-grandpa, had actually made his peace and was ready to be home with Jesus, and that's exactly where he was, in heaven. So it's a good entree for those kids that age.
And one of the things I find, and you might find this with young people, Kathleen, is that especially young children and young people, they don't have the same filters that we've had to build up, you know, to kind of cope with life. Yeah. And so I find that especially young children are very open to talking about these
Yeah.
things because they're genuinely curious.
Yeah.
And they also have a love for Jesus that hasn't been tainted by temptation
Yes.
and by concupiscence in the same way.
Right.
Yeah, I think we underestimate young children, and we try and make it flowery, and we don't, like sometimes I think the greatest disservice you can do to them is just not get to the point.
Yeah.
And not to be like grandma's dead and that's just it, but to be honest with them, to teach what the church teaches. I think especially when it comes to death, when it comes to anything that makes us uncomfortable, we want to skirt around the issue.
Yeah.
But to teach what the church teaches about what happens after we die, what where do we go, what happens?
Yeah.
And that way, to be in a very you have to be general, and you don't want to get theologically
Right, it has
heavy
to be
with
age
them.
appropriate,
right.
if you will. Yeah.
You want to be gentle, and you don't want to scar them for the rest of their life. But they understand that, and they take it in, and it helps them so much more down the line. When they grow up and they're faced with more death in their life, there's this rooted foundation.
Yeah. How do you handle that line, Father Chris, that where, and I know you've heard it before, where people will say, well, I guess God just needed another angel. It's like, no, that's not it.
Well, sometimes I let it slide because I heard it quite a bit, actually.
Oh, really?
Over the course of this week. Or actually, I didn't hear it so much as I saw it in Facebook comments, because I think people are trying to find something, therapeutic to say. And I think we've all watched the Jimmy Stewart movies.
It's a Wonderful
It's
Life.
a Wonderful Life.
Oh, yes.
Where the angel gets its wings when it does a good
Clarence,
deed, and you hear the bell and all that.
Yeah.
Well, very simply, God has all the angels that He needs because He created them before the world happened. And an angel is a completely different being than a human person. And so if the situation presents itself, I will say, well, I will bet you that so and so is singing with the angels the same song that they're singing, but his soul is different than the angel's soul.
Yes,
so
right.
It is actually more dignified to say that this is a soul that's in heaven rather than this is a soul that becomes an angel. So, like I said, most of the time I just kind of let it slide, even though the theologia hairs on the back of my neck stand up,
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that that there is a way to talk about it with kids and even with adults, being theologically correct. Because even if you just use the scriptures, like you said, Kathleen, and you know what the church teaches about Christ's life, death, and resurrection, then St. Paul usually makes it pretty clear. Well, like in here, if we believe that Jesus died and rose, so too will God through Jesus bring with Him those who have fallen asleep. That's right. That is a basic tenet of our faith. That is the reason for our hope. Yeah. And so if we take just even that bit of Paul's letter to the Thessalonians, and we allow that to lead us to Calvary with Jesus, if we allow that to lead us to all of these other elements where Jesus is talking about His death, like in Luke's gospel, then we really are going somewhere. There's a reason for our hope. And even though we may be a little scared about, well, what is death like? Is it going to be like a camera iris closing and then something opening? Is there going to be a bright light? Well, those are all natural human things to worry about, in the sense that we are concerned about them because we don't know. But I find that I can deal a little bit less with my concerns if I allow my faith to make up for what I don't know. Well put. Yeah, like it says in the chat, Taylor says in the chat, there's probably going to be a lot of crying. Sometimes there is, and you know what? Yeah. Crying is good, and it's okay. I have cried a lot this week, and I will cry a lot more.
Yes, you will.
But that's okay. It's okay, because tears come from any number of places. It comes from grief. For me, from Mom, a lot of our tears have come from gratitude. From gratitude for Dad's life, for what he did while he was here. And to be able to be open about that, Number 2, not to shy away from the crucifix. Don't take the corpus off of the cross. The crucifix is a great sign of hope. The cross without the body of the Lord is simply a means of torture and capital punishment. But with the Lord, it is a reminder of what will occur, because we know Jesus, and he reveals this about himself in Luke chapter 9, that he must be killed and on the third day be raised. Praying with the crucifix is actually a very full sign of the resurrection. We see the whole mystery at work. Sometimes, folks talk about, well, why do you Catholics have the body of Jesus on the cross? That's the incomplete part of the story. And yet we believe that the corpus, Jesus' body on the cross, the crucifix itself, is actually a window to all of the Paschal mystery, his life, his death, and his resurrection. Wow. Because if one didn't happen, the other wouldn't have happened. You can't have Easter Sunday without Good Friday. And so seeing Good Friday as this completion of the whole mystery, in a sense, is really important. And so I pray with the crucifix quite a bit because of that. And of course, if you've ever been to Mexico and you see the crucifixes that they use, they are these very graphic, bloody crucifixes that sometimes make us even turn away because of what Jesus had to endure. But to be able to be real about this did happen to Jesus, and Jesus tells us that it must happen so that this next thing can happen.
Well, I heard a priest say this, and I can't remember or recall who it was exactly, but I found it so profound. In essence, and I can't quote it exactly the way it was said, but that salvation is not in the wood. It's not in the cross itself. Salvation is in that corpus, the body, that was nailed to the cross.
That's right.
And
so we place great veneration in the wood, because it was the wood on which hung the body.
Yes.
Which is why, as you'll recall on Good Friday, it's the one day a year that we venerate the cross with the same veneration that we would the Eucharist.
That's great.
We genuflect on Good Friday to the cross because it was on that wood that hung our Savior.
Yeah, that's true.
And then, of course, number 3, reading the book of Revelation in the light of the Gospels and the Church and her liturgy. There's so much hope in the book of Revelation when we see the Mass, even a funeral Mass, especially a funeral Mass, as an earthly image of the heavenly liturgy. In fact, The Lamb's Supper by Scott Hahn is a really good book if you want some Lenten reading that talks about the Mass as kind of the fulfillment or the earthly fulfillment of what will be fulfilled in the book of Revelation. That the book of Revelation is just this great big liturgical action, and to see the book of Revelation as kind of an image of the Mass, and how all of that connects with the Gospels. The book of Revelation has some scary bits in it, but overall it's a sign of great hope. Even if you just read like the last sentence of the book of Revelation, "Come, Lord Jesus, Maranatha." It ends on such a note of hope and not a note of now. So our faith has so much to teach us about the Christian virtue of hope, and it's in the Scriptures, and it's in Mother Church, it's in her liturgy, it's in all of those beautiful things. Also, a way to kind of keep death before us is by keeping our inclination towards sin before us, to make a daily examination of conscience, to request forgiveness of God. You don't have to go to confession to be forgiven of your venial sins, but you do have to ask.
Yes.
It's also a good time to determine whether or not you ought to go to confession, for we don't know the day or the hour. That's why I always try to go once a month, whether I need it or not, kind of like my bathing, Yeah. So kind of like you take a shower regularly, right? You go to confession regularly because you don't know the day or the hour. Right. Especially if there's a mortal sin on your soul, go to confession. Get there. Don't tarry. Because there's also somebody else who doesn't want you to get to a good place with your Lord, right?
Well put.
We know that Satan is at work there. But those are some of the ways that we can keep death before us. Again, one of the most beautiful things that I was able to see was my dad dealing with that. And it was one of the greatest gifts I think that he's ever given me was to watch him kind of turn this over in prayer and in dealing with his family, and to offer that as a gift before he went. So
that's fascinating because I had the same experience with my dad. It was just me, my mom, and my dad, and of course the priest, and it was quite beautiful. In fact, after the priest left, my dad he was from the country, Washington Parish, Louisiana, and he says, that was pretty special there. I really liked that. So,
and in those phrases, you knew everything you needed to know, right? Right,
Exactly.
Because you knew what that meant, the subtext.
Yes.
Yeah, and my
he
dad
was ready. He was ready.
My dad was that way too. He didn't say a whole lot sometimes, and especially when he got quiet, kind of like me, you know that there's some deep stuff going on, you know. So we are the Catholic Underground, and well, we're still here. Und meine Lieben, you are listening to the Catholic Underground. We're online at catholicunderground.tv. I am Father Chris Decker. Jeff Blackwell joins us in the audio cave there.
Yes.
Got Kathleen Lee in the studio cave.
Yep.
And in the video cave, you can't see him, but he's there. Father Mark Sproul. We're going to look at Lent and our picks of the week a little bit later. But first, because you're probably giving it up for Lent, a fun list for today. Coffee recipes from around the world. And Mashable has 14 of them, but I thought we would look for a little while at some of these coffee recipes and then talk a little bit about coffee.
Yeah.
Because I know, Kathleen, you're a coffee drinker.
No, I'm not.
You're not. You're a tea drinker? Do you drink tea? Or do you
yes.
just like the frilly beverage from time to time?
I do.
Yeah.
You know, and I want to be a coffee drinker because
Yeah.
apparently that's like the cool kid crowd,
Yeah.
you know, to
Yeah.
be a coffee drinker. But I've had coffee probably 2 or 3 times in my life.
Oh.
And every time, like, it's like flat on the floor, migraine.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's interesting because I can drink Mountain. It's not a caffeine thing because I can drink Mountain Dew like it's going out of style.
Yeah.
Or I used to be able to. But I don't know what it is. Even if I used to go to like coffee places and study, I couldn't last for very long. I had to
Wow.
go home. It just knocks me out.
I kind of took you for a wine cooler type person. Anyway, so.
Yes, that is true. I do.
A little arbor mist.
My dad, however, is a coffee drinker, and so I
yeah.
I do dabble in the procuring of coffee.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, back to coffee.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Now,
Now that
Jeff-
I just
Jeff-
dashed
I know that Jeff is a coffee drinker.
I am indeed.
But you
Yeah,
tend to
I
be
like it.
kind of a simple coffee drinker kind of guy, right?
Yeah, I don't like French vanilla. I just could care less. The flavored coffees, especially like pumpkin and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm not.
Now,
pumpkin
I
pie.
do like, just because it's different, that you and Father Ryan drink it all the time. That heavy duty, chunky style coffee, Lebanese.
Oh yeah, Lebanese coffee.
Yeah, because it's got different ground up bark and things in there.
That's right. That's actually one of the ones mentioned
Oh,
here
is that
on
right?
Mashable. Well, they call it by Turkish coffee, but it's
Turkish,
essentially
yeah,
more
yeah.
or less. Now, I know our Turkish listeners and our Lebanese listeners are probably going to, bring me side by side comparison like it's Pepsi, but essentially it's like cardamom and other spices, and they brew in a
Yes.
little pot, and it's usually sweetened while it's being brewed, while it's being cooked, really.
Yes.
And then they pour it in, and it has this grit at the bottom, this sediment.
But I do like that. I think because it's different.
Well, right, and it's for me, Kathleen. So much of coffee is the experience drinking it.
Okay.
You know, because there are always side effects. In fact, I just had my mug of coffee before we started, and here it is, well after the coffee threshold for any normal person. But yeah, Turkish coffee or Lebanese coffee. Yang in China, which is hot black tea, strong coffee, and sweetened condensed milk.
Ooh, I'd like to try that now.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. I don't know how I feel about mixing tea and coffee together, though. I don't know.
Maybe a little caffeine buzz going there.
I have probably double caffeine buzz. And there's ice cafe, which is in Germany. It's made with ice cream, coffee, espresso cream, and topped with chocolate chips.
That would be my kind of coffee.
Kathleen would be on board with that one. She would probably like
Well, I have just a little splash of coffee.
Yeah.
Lots of chocolate chips.
Oh, so you'd have extra chocolate chips.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
why not?
Right. Espresso Romano, which is espresso in the morning, and the Romans like to add a dash of lemon, just a little.
Interesting. The coffee, I've never had that.
Yeah.
Try that.
Tim Grimes in the chat room, Tim the seminarian intern, almost CPE intern, says Café Las Flores is a good coffee. He got it in Nicaragua when he went on a mission trip, and he says it's some of the best non-flavored coffee that he's had, and they sell it in the United States. And there are some coffees. I like the frilly coffee too, like the flavors and things like that. But there's some coffees that require no augmentation whatsoever, except for maybe a little sweetener for me. In fact, in Central America is some of the best coffee. And I don't know why, but in Central America, they can make instant coffee taste good. Probably because of the sweetened condensed milk.
That's got to be the trick there.
Probably the trick.
Did you mention Cuban coffee yet?
I was about to. Coffee Cubano, yeah.
That's
a layering of sweet cream on top of espresso.
Now, I actually, there was a visiting missionary, let's see, Jesus Vasquez.
Oh, yes.
And he and his
¿Tú
wife.
recuerdas el nombre? Ese nombre, sí.
Anyway, we went over to his house for dinner one night, and he was from Cuba. And he it was weird, but they wouldn't serve water with like the meal, and it was delicious. He said, "No, you fill up on food, you don't fill up on water." So, but he brought out this Cuban coffee, and this stuff was, like powder. It was just real fine powder,
like diamond dust. It was.
It was potent. But it was delicious. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. Ryan over in the chat room says on the West Coast, quite possibly the best coast, try Verve and Ritual for roasters. He says that's amazing. So if you it's interesting that a number of our listeners, a lot of you are in California, believe it or not. I've looked at the stats, and for whatever reason, you're all, maybe it's the underground, I don't know.
Really?
But yeah, so Verve and Ritual, if I make it out that way, Ryan, I'm coming, we're going to go coffee shopping, my friend.
I smell a trip.
Oh, so you road trip. Yeah.
Road trip. Yeah,
I love that. Our last meetup in Washington, D.C. Back in 2008 didn't go so well, so we're going to have to work up to it. Yeah. And then, of course, Vietnamese coffee, which I've had before. It's been a long time. Slow drip coffee on top of sweetened condensed milk. There's that sweetened condensed milk again. Wow. So on the bottom, it's white because it's sweetened condensed milk.
Yes.
And then on the top, there's a layer of slow drip coffee. So it's thick. Yeah. And then you kind of plunge the spoon down into it. And you get this really weird mixture of stuff.
I don't know if it's a Cajun thing to South Louisiana, but my ma-in-law, she would make coffee that you can stand a spoon up in, really strong, but always use evaporated milk.
Right. That is kind of I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble. I'm not sure if it's a Cajun thing or just an old person thing in Louisiana, or maybe both. I'm not sure.
Could be, yeah.
Because there are some restaurants that I go into that are mom and pop restaurants.
Yeah.
And they don't bring cream, but they will bring sweetened condensed milk or evaporated milk.
Cafe Du Monde in the French Quarter. Yeah,
that's right, because you can always tell the cream has kind of a beige color to it, and you're like, oh, I know what that is.
Yeah,
and then it's thick,
Yum.
But yeah, coffee is just one of those things, and of course, as Father Mark would tell you if he were here, coffee has a very rich Catholic tradition as well. It was baptized by one of the popes.
No, I did not know that.
Because it was called, I can't remember, it was one of the Urbans, I believe. But people kept bringing it to the Holy Father, and they said, this is Satan's beverage. It's Satan's beverage. And the Pope tasted it, and he said, well, if this is Satan's beverage, then we ought to baptize it because it's so good, or something like that.
Wow.
So coffee kind of received the official commendation of the Catholic Church, and it's been waking priests up for Mass ever since.
I love it.
A question in the chat room, in Louisiana, do they really put chicory in the coffee? The answer is yes.
See?
Yes, good old New Orleans blend, coffee and chicory, and it's good. I like coffee and chicory.
I do too.
I especially like café au lait with chicory. So that's the chicory dripped coffee with milk, Yeah. And almost every Louisiana child grew up having brought to them in bed.
Yes.
It's all one word. Don't Google it. Coffee milk.
Coffee milk.
Everybody, every parishioner over the age of 60 in my parishes, you know who you are, likes to talk about coffee milk.
Oh yeah.
It's one of those fond memories of childhood for so many. Yeah.
In fact, our grandson's going to be staying with us this week, and we'll start off his day with coffee milk.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of that's what it is. It's like a grandchild, grandparent thing.
Yeah,
the grandparents bring it in, and it's kind of like a special thing because the parents just want you to get up and go to school. They don't, and Ryan also wants to know what coffee and chicory tastes like. It basically tastes like burnt wood inside coffee.
Yeah.
Good. I like it.
Because in essence it is.
That's right. So Jeff, how do you take your coffee on a regular day?
I'm very traditional in that I have to have half and half. I don't like the powdered stuff. I don't like the flavored stuff. So half. Now I will tell you this: I found if those of you who could see me, like I need skinny girl, sweeteners or stuff like that. But my wife found this, and it was a Christmas gift, just kind of like a stocking stuffer a couple of years ago, and it's this salted caramel sweetener. It's everything. And when I tried it, it's like, ooh, I like that. But so occasionally I will definitely do that. But Splenda and half or half and half in that sweetener. What?
This just in. It was Pope Clement the 5, 6, 7, 8. Pope Clement the 8th. Who baptized coffee.
Oh, okay.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. Another historical fact.
That's right. Brought to you unrehearsed on the Catholic Underground. Yeah, in fact, I can use my fancy computer phone to look up really quick what he said. Kathleen, you don't take coffee, but if you did...
I don't, but I have been dabbling in the teas, like you said. And I, this, a couple months ago, I got peppermint tea. I was like, let me see what this peppermint tea is about. And I said, let me go get some creamer or something to put. I found Thin Mint Girl Scout cookie creamer.
It's pretty good.
What?
Put it in my peppermint tea. I about died. It was so good. It was so good. But yeah, I do drink tea, but I gotta have it with milk.
Yeah. Oh yeah, very British.
Yeah,
very British of you.
Well, I first found out about tea when I was in Africa, and it was like summertime, and they're like, "Here, have some hot tea," and I was like, "Okay," and it was delicious, and I loved it, and So.
And we close this discussion on coffee before we speak of Lent and things you ought to give up with that direct quote that's attributed to Pope Clement VIII. We're not really sure if it's a true story or not, to be honest with you, but it's really awesome to think that it would be, because supposedly the story goes is the Pope's advisors were telling him, look, you need to declare coffee the bitter invention of Satan, because it was very popular actually among in Islamic circles, because some of the best coffee comes from the Middle East. Huh? Yeah. And so he tasted it supposedly and says, the devil's drink is so delicious, we should cheat the devil by baptizing it. We are the Catholic Underground. You're listening to the Catholic Underground, and if you're lucky enough to have Catholic Television or St. Michael Broadcasting or some other outlet like the YouTube, you're watching it too. I am Father Chris Decker. Joining us, we have Jeff Blackwell. He's in the audio cave there.
Howdy ho, neighbor.
Kathleen finds herself in the studio.
Here I am.
That's right. Father Ryan's on assignment. We have Father Mark Spruill, who is our official Rhodian chaplain, who is running the video for us if you happen to be at CatholicUnderground.tv, which, by the way, has a little bit of a new look. Hopefully it's easier to navigate. You can watch the show when it's happening live, and you can chat right there along the side of it. Don't be afraid. If it's 7 p.m. Central Time and you got nothing to do, because you don't, because it's the Lord's Day and you're supposed to be relaxing, let us do the work. CatholicUnderground.tv. Alrighty, because Easter is on April 5th this year in 2015, it means Lent is very, very close. Yeah. And so we thought we'd get a head start by talking a little bit about Lent. Lent is one of those things that Jeff, a lot of folks say, oh, you Catholics, and Lent.
Or what you giving up for Lent, huh?
That's right. It's usually how it starts. What are you giving up for Lent? It's kind of like, it's like poking the elephant, So Catholic, what are you giving up for Lent? Let's look at the history, the basics, right? The first key to understanding Lent is actually baptism. Oftentimes we think it's like giving stuff up, and that's how you start.
Yeah.
But the first key to understanding Lent is baptism, because Easter is the time not only when we rejoice over the resurrection of Christ from the dead, but how he invites us into that. And if you remember from your reading, Kathleen, the way he did it, baptism.
Yep.
He had no need to go into the waters of the Jordan.
But he did.
Yeah. And John the Baptist was kind of freaked out by it.
I would have been.
Yeah, I think I would have been. Yeah, it'd be like the Pope coming over to your house for coffee and you serving him tea instead.
Yeah.
So yes, that's why actually we concentrate especially on baptism during Lent, And it is a season that is rich with baptismal water that I almost spilled on my computer here. But also in the Easter Vigil, so much of the Easter Vigil, kind of the Catholic Super Bowl as I like to call it, so much of the Easter Vigil concentrates on baptism. If you think about it, the new baptismal water is blessed at this Mass that's used in the church.
That's true. Yeah.
Those who are entering into the church are being baptized into it, and so there's all this baptismal imagery, even from the readings, and so the connection is that going into the water of baptism symbolizes death. Did you know that, Jeff?
Yes, I did. Yeah, because I was actually a Baptist before I became Catholic.
Oh yeah.
This Easter I'll be 25 years old in the Catholic faith.
Yay.
So yeah. And I'm still learning.
Oh yes, aren't we all? Aren't we all? So, in fact, if I remember correctly from reading the Church Fathers, it wasn't uncommon whenever the priest or the bishop, really, in most cases, the bishop would hold down the head of the person they were baptizing.
Yes.
For just a little too long, so that there would be a little hint of a struggle. And then would bring their head up to not bring them to the point of death, but to give them a sense of you are dying in this moment.
Yes.
What you were before and what you were about to become in this threefold drenching, this threefold dunking, this threefold movement is you were dying and then you were coming back up out of the water, and coming out of the water is the resurrection. In baptism, we die to original sin. We rise to a new life that is different from the one we had before in the Holy Spirit, and we're able to receive and respond to grace, and ultimately we receive our salvation from eternal death.
Yes.
And that's why the first key is baptism. The second key, as you might imagine, actually as Tim the seminarian intern says, is penance. Right, prayer and fasting and almsgiving. Even though we recognize that we're saved by Christ's actions on the cross, and we share in that salvation by baptism, Kathleen, we recognize that the effects of original sin are still here.
Yeah, they sure are.
Yeah.
And that's why I love. They just started the light is on for you.
Yes.
Oh, right, which is our reconciliation program.
Right.
Yeah, and I love it. I love that's a program that we started, I think, a couple years ago.
Yeah, it's been a couple now. I mean,
yeah.
quite a few, actually, now.
I get excited every time I see they start putting stuff out. I'm like, ee-hee.
That's right, because the sense is, at least the way that the program is usually done, is that every certain evening during Lent, like one night of the week, like a Wednesday or something, just about every church, if not all the churches, depending on your diocese, are open.
Right.
And there's a priest there in the confessional ready for you. And it works a lot better in the city than it does in the country sometimes. The penance service model works very well in the country because of the long, windy roads that are not lit. But in the city, it works really, really well, where you've got the light on, and people know that the priest will be in there for you to come and get your sin shrived. Because penance is an important part. And again, if you think about it, baptism is the key. But if I want to live fully my baptism, then that means I'm going to want to keep out of sin.
Yes.
So original sin's wiped away, but I can still do a number on my salvation by persisting in sin, because the more we sin, whether venial or mortal, the more we turn away from what the Lord wants for us. And the more we sin, the easier it is to sin and sin and sin again, sin more. And so that's why penance, we do penance during Lent, so that we can hopefully desire virtue more than vice, so that we can open ourselves to God's grace. And we also thank God for the gift of penance, and we thank Him for the gift of our baptism. So we kind of align ourselves by willfully entering into some form of suffering, of just some small sacrifice, so that we can identify ourselves with Jesus, who made the ultimate sacrifice, the biggest sacrifice of shedding His own body and blood for us.
Yes.
So those are the keys to understanding Lent. And Jeff's a broadcaster. Yep. I don't know if you knew that, but Jeff is in fact a broadcaster.
Surprise.
And so he's always worried about words, right? He's always making sure the right word is there, and it's true, Jeff.
Most days it is true.
Yeah, he's always making sure that that the right words are being used. And so the Anglo-Saxon word lengthen means spring, very simply. It's the word for spring. So lengthened is the word for springtide, and actually it's the word for March,
Oh.
which is the majority of the month in which the Lenten season falls. So it doesn't mean that Lent is a pagan season that got co-opted, but so much more. It means that folks were kind of matter-of-fact about the time in which they prepared for Easter. It happened during Lenten, you know? And, of course, we determine Easter by the phases of the moon and all this and that, right?
Right.
And so the word play is important, too, because it just very simply says the time in which we do what we do as Catholics, as Christians, preparing for the Easter season. And then Father William Saunders over at the Catholic Education and Resource Center gives us some good history. I always wondered about this myself, is did Lent just kind of happen one day? Did some priest in the 1600s say, you know what, let's do a Lent? It turns out that we get little hints of Lent, I thank you, as early as 203 A.D. So in the very first centuries of the Church.
My.
St. Irenaeus was writing to Pope Victor, trying to talk about some of the different practices in the East and the West. And in the letter, he not only proves that the Church in the East was really, really hardcore penitential. They really got down to business. But he also mentions that the observance of Lent didn't originate in our own day, in Irenaeus' day, he said, but, quote, very much earlier in the time of our forefathers. So the forefathers happening before 203 A.D. would be, well, the apostles.
Imagine that.
So
Wow.
So in 203, you know, or the 200s, because Irenaeus died in 203, but before this, right?
Yes.
You have Irenaeus talking about what happened barely a century beforehand.
Right.
So Lent wasn't just something that happened one day, but rather from the very beginning of Christ's resurrection from the dead, there was this notion that we've got to prepare to usher this in again, to keep this feast of Easter.
Yes.
Just really awesome. And so then when Christianity became legal in 313 A.D., there began to be some structure that's fit onto it. And Kathleen remembers the Council of Nicaea in 325.
Yes, I was there.
I mean, who could forget it? Yeah, who could forget?
Kathleen is also a Time Lord.
Yeah.
That's right. So in 325, some of the universal practices began to be codified so that East and West could kind of come together. You know, even though the Orthodox churches, which eventually would split off in the 1100s, kind of started doing their own thing again.
Yes.
But there was this desire to kind of join all these practices together, because before the 300s, one of the things that Irenaeus was writing Pope Victor about was, well, we do this here, and they do this there, and they do this there, and some people it's 40 days, and some folks it's not quite 40 days, and some they observe Monday through Friday, some it's Monday through Sunday as well. And so Lent was set as a period of 40 days, not counting Sundays, that originated from the time of the apostles, and then all of the prayer and the fasting were the principal components of the preparation period before Easter. And so this really was refined down over the ages. Because I tell you, Kathleen, I've read some of the stuff in the Council of Nicaea, and there's a lot. I mean, for example, the general rule was for a person to have one meal a day in the evening or at 3 p.m., and that was it.
Every day?
During Lent.
Every day during
That's
Lent?
right, during
okay.
Lent. Would you have been able to do that, Kathleen?
No. Let's just go with
I wouldn't
no.
have been either. And so
I would have been hiding in the cupboard eating Snicker bars.
Yeah, or the equivalent thereof, right?
Yeah.
Dried meat and nut, you know.
Yep.
So this evolved over time so that a person could have the stamina to do manual labor of having a large meal and then 2 smaller meals, which is what we do today. So the gist is simple nowadays. Ash Wednesday marks the beginning of Lent, lasts for 40 days, not including Sundays. On Ash Wednesday and Good Friday, the faithful fast, which means having only 1 full meal a day and 2 smaller meals that don't equal a full meal to keep up one's strength. And then you abstain from meat on Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. And we'll talk about that in a sec.
Okay.
And then people are still encouraged to give up something for Lent as a sacrifice. These are just this is kind of what we do as Catholics. So as you remember, Ash Wednesday, just about everybody comes, in Louisiana especially,
True.
everybody
Yes.
comes to get ashes. It's like this holy day of obligation that's not a holy day of obligation. And it's a reminder that we're formed from the dust of the earth. Dust will return. And then one of my favorite things, Jeff, is it reminds me of sitting in sackcloth and ashes in the Old Testament.
Yes.
It was a penitential practice.
And you typically wear the ashes I started to say
smack dab
proudly,
on the forehead.
But you wear them all day long.
Yeah, at least in the United States, in the West, we wear them on our forehead.
Yes.
But in Rome, the Italian, the Roman, the way that the Romans do it, when in Rome, they sprinkle the ashes on the crown of the head.
Oh.
Yeah. But it's true. In Louisiana, everybody wears their ashes proudly.
Yeah.
That's true.
And I would imagine it's the same where you are.
Yeah.
That if you're a Catholic, this is an important symbol that we do. Lent is always a season of prayer. Many make this Stations of the Cross. They'll go to daily mass. My daily mass attendance shoots up to quite well above the teens during Lent. Mm-hmm. And so it's definitely a good practice to reinvigorate our prayer, to rediscover our prayer. And then, of course, Kathleen, we fast for the right reasons.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always hate when people are like, "Oh, I'm gonna, fast," or all this stuff that they're gonna give up because they want to lose weight and all this stuff for Lent. I'm like, that's so lame.
Yeah.
Let's just do it for the right.
Well, that's the thing. The pangs of hunger remind us of our hunger for God. That's more or less the sense of it. It aids our prayer. Fasting is meant to aid our prayer.
Okay.
And that's why Jesus, when he talks about the demons that infest some people and the apostles are trying to cast the demons out, and they say, why can't we do it? He says, some demons can only be brought out, can only be cast out by prayer and fasting, because fasting galvanizes our relationship with Jesus.
That's a powerful stuff,
something
man.
that happens to the body willfully that brings us into solidarity with the Lord in a new way. Then, of course, the prophet Isaiah insists that fasting without changing our behavior is not pleasing to God. This is what you're talking about, Kathleen, when those who say, I'm going to lose so much weight during this Lent, it's going to be great. Yes. Yes, Kat. But Isaiah is clear. God says, this rather, quote, is the fasting that I wish. Release those bound unjustly, untying the thongs of the yoke, setting free the oppressed, breaking every yoke, sharing your bread with the hungry, sheltering the oppressed and the homeless, clothing the naked when you see them, and not turning your back on your own. We fast physically, not eating certain things and not eating at certain times of the day and not eating these meals so that we can open our hearts, rending our hearts, not our garments, not an outward sign only, but an outward sign that bespeaks of an inward reality. A sacramental, really.
Can I just...
you can.
All right, thank you. Well, there's a scripture somewhere that comes to mind where you're not supposed to be boasting about fasting.
Yeah, that's actually what we read on Ash Wednesday. Jesus says, when you fast, don't fast like the hypocrites do. They neglect their appearance so that they can appear to be fasting, is what the scripture says. It doesn't say they're actually doing it.
Right.
But yes, the important thing about fasting and prayer and almsgiving is that we are doing it, but not so that we can be noticed.
Yes.
We're doing it so that the Lord will see that we are making an honest effort to grow closer to Him.
Yeah.
And that's really what the Lord asks of us. That's kind of a fulfillment of Isaiah's prophecy.
And it's not about getting into that size 8, huh? So
it's not.
In my case, it'd be 2 hours.
Yeah. Right. Well, I mean,
Anyway.
But that's how guys are, right? We only work in the double digits.
That's it, manly thigh.
That's like some of the whenever I'm buying civilian wear for vacation, they actually make extra small for guys now. And I'm thinking to myself, there's no way. I can't even deal with medium these days.
Well, I guess that's for guys who have a 6-pack. Huh? I got a full case.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, whiskey barrels are important.
Or,
some of the best alcohol comes from that. Anyway,
right.
Abstinence from meat. In Louisiana especially, this is always a ho-hum point of contention.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Because there's seafood every 10 minutes. You pass a crawfish market or something like that. But
and alligator.
And alligator, reptiles, and amphibians don't count towards the eating of meat.
There you go.
But of course, leaving meat out of our Fridays, abstaining from meat in Lent, brings us into solidarity with the poor. Those same poor that Isaiah mentions, they couldn't afford meat, and so we make ourselves poor like them. In that sense, it's also abstaining from meat on Good Friday that reminds us of Jesus, who gave up His own flesh for our salvation.
Yes.
So a very beautiful kind of connection there. And we say this every Lent, Father Ryan and I do on the show, but a big giant crawfish boil on Good Friday in which we gorge ourselves on food misses the point.
It's true.
And so, I always say on Fridays, even though it's not a fast day, if you're in a place where seafood, really good seafood is abundant, you may want to continue a simple fast on Friday as well, so that you can abstain from meat, but also not give into the temptation to just kind of overeat on seafood,
Right.
Because remember, rend your hearts, not your garments.
There you go.
Yep.
There you
Do the internal, not just the external.
Yes, right.
Speaking of which, giving something up. Lent is about conversion, turning away from sin, and so that's why we're not called just to put aside our coffee or our candy, but rather do something, or rather I should say give up something that will lead us into sin. Stop an action that leads us into sin. And that's where people say, I want to give up candy because gluttony is a particular sin that I'm inclined towards. That's different than I'm giving up candy because I want to fit into the size 8.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
Rend your heart, not your garment. Sometimes the garments rend themselves, if you're above that size. But yeah, giving something up is all about attempting to stop an action that leads us into sin. Lent is not just something that you Catholics do. If we see it as an empty practice, then Kathleen, we're going to end up on Easter morning the same person that we came in on Ash Wednesday.
Yep.
Yes.
There will be no resurrection.
That's right. And that's true. That we will not experience the resurrection in its fullness if we have not walked those 40 days in the desert with the Lord. It's a season for us to try to become holy, not of our own power, but by emptying ourselves out. And we willingly become weak, and the Lord makes us holy by showing us his strength. That's what we believe. This coming Friday, if you're watching the show this week, go over to CatholicUnderground.com, and on our blog, you will find 5 things to help you make it through the desert this Lent. That's at CatholicUnderground.com/blog. Well, I think we have pretty much got Lent well in hand. Hopefully you're prepared. And so now we go to a little bit more fun before this Lenten season begins with a little part of the show that we like to call
The CU Pick of the Week.
I'm glad that Father Mark gave me this card. I feel, like Karnak.
Karnak.
Yeah. Pick of the week, Kathleen.
Okay. Well, I think this is one that I've brought up before, but I think that it's a great one to use because we have a couple of events coming up. Valentine's Day is next week. Easter, Confirmation, First Communion, Mother's Day. I want to talk about James Avery jewelry.
Yeah.
It's awesome jewelry. I wear like the earrings I'm wearing right now are James Avery. Yeah,
Kathleen is wearing James Avery.
Mm-hmm. It's this guy who in like I think the 50s he started a jewelry business, but he has a story that he left the church for a while, and I don't think he was Catholic. But he had this conversion, a reconversion, and he came back to the church, and it's really evident in his jewelry. It's really good quality jewelry. It's pretty inexpensive when it comes to jewelry. It's a lot of silver, and he has things like if you look, he's got all kinds of religious jewelry just peppered in there. So he's got like the Saint Teresa cross, Our Lady of Guadalupe. He's got a First Communion charm, confirmation charm. He's got all these Saint Michael, Saint Christopher, Saint Francis. He's got a widow's mite, which is really cool.
Oh, cool. I
got that one from my little sister. But it just makes really... I'm a gift giver.
Yeah.
So when it comes to getting things, I don't like to just buy, a piece of jewelry off the rack and there you go. He's got some really beautiful stuff. I mean, like I said, it's pretty affordable and it's quality stuff. And I always like to support, businesses that put their faith into their product, what they do. And so it's beautiful stuff. You should check it out, jamesavery.com, if you want to give it a look. See.
Very cool. and like you say, First Communion's coming up soon. Yeah. Valentine's Day is coming up. So yeah, there you go. Jeff, your pick of the week.
Well, my mom is living on a fixed income, and she's got a computer that's about 5 or 6 years old.
Yep.
And the thing had really gotten bogged down. Now, let me tell you, Mom, she goes to some really strange...
She downloads everything.
I mean, it's like, I try to tell her, look, be careful of some of these websites you go to. And so anyway.
Well, even the ones that are just normal websites,
well,
there's
you're
a lot of
right.
stuff riding on them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. So I got her PC, brought it to my house, and then I started looking around. I was thinking about just going ahead and buying some software for, like antivirus, malware, spyware, that kind of stuff. So I came across this great article, and it's in the show notes at CatholicUnderground.com. And PC Magazine put out the best free antivirus software for 2015. Cool. And some of these are, free for 30 days, a trial basis, but you can get, all the full features of it. So downloaded it, let it do its thing, and then, got rid of it. But still the best two free, now this is for antivirus.
Yeah.
Because, you have those that when you're surfing the internet and then...
Right, you got your malware and all that stuff. Yeah.
Anyway, just check it out because it's some great side-by-side comparisons. And that's in the show notes, PC Magazine's best free antivirus software for this year.
Very cool. My pick of the week is something that I have a few of and I've given as gifts. It's called Scout Books. If you're a fan of the Moleskine brand of little notebook, Scout Books are these handy dandy notebooks that you yourself can design. You can buy the covers to make your own, and they sell pretty much everything that they make so that you can actually do this on your own if you want. And they have different Scout Books for different things. So like if you like to write music, they have the ones with the music staff on them. They're these great little notebooks to carry around, and I always have a little notebook with me because, well, you never know when the urge to draw might come upon you. So,
Right.
Scout Books is my pick of the week. Ryan in the chat says his pick of the week is the AeroPress. I'll have to put that in the show notes because it's a really cool looking coffee and espresso maker, and it's 100% manual. You do all the work yourself, and it uses science to make the coffee.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I had to check that out.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. In fact, it's $25. It's not too expensive. Perhaps makes a good stocking stuffer for Easter. Oh, wait, that's a different thing. Let us know what your picks of the week are. Backchat at CatholicUnderground.com is the best way to do that. Or you can do like Ryan did and go into the chat on our live show at CatholicUnderground.tv. All right, Jeff, we thank those who support us.
Yes, this week Catholic Underground is possible because of people just like you. So join the growing number of undergrounders at CatholicUnderground.com/donate. And also portions of the Catholic Underground are brought to you by audibletrial.com/Catholic Underground. That's audibletrial.com/Catholic Underground.
For the show notes and all that stuff that accompanies our podcast, you can go to CatholicUnderground.com. We thank you, as always, for joining us. We've got Jeff Blackwell. He's the tech director for the CU. He's the ruling despot at the Blackwell Communications Group. JeffBlackwell.us on Twitter at Jeff Blackwell. Thank you, Jeff.
It is an honor.
Kathleen Lee is the Faith Ninja at Kathleen YABR. Thank you, Kathleen.
Okay, bye.
You know me. I'm Father Chris Decker. Follow me on Twitter at Digital Catholic. Thanks for tuning in and hanging out with us on the digital continent. We're Catholic Underground. We're Faith Gone Digital, and we will see you next time.
From the Catholic Underground.
Here.
All right.
Yes, to all of you in the chat room, awesome show. You were 7 strong. Well, I guess less than that technically because we're 3 of those 7.
Yay.
But thank you. Thank you for getting involved in the chat there. Really cool.
That is. I love that. And I wasn't logged in, so I wasn't a part of the chat.
Oh, there we go.
I got too much stuff going on over here on this computer.
Oh, Ken says they're getting another foot of snow up there.
Oh, my.
Well, Ken, just settle in with some classic episodes of the Catholic Underground and sleep. They'll put you to sleep.
Yeah. A little tea.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then sleep.
Or if you have any coffee, that you've stockpiled.
They'll never go to sleep.
That's true. I haven't. Last night I had coffee, and I did have trouble sleeping.
Yeah.
Which rarely is an issue for me.
Really.
Normally the caffeine doesn't. I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting old.
Don't start that stuff.
I wasn't going to say anything.
You have a ways to go, Father.
Yeah. Well, to all of you in the chat, we salute you. Thank you for all you do. I suppose we should fade to black now.